"Have you thought about us starting a family?" Those were the very first words my wife, Lauren, had said to me with a real, glowing smile in nearly half a year. She looked at me with so much warmth in her eyes as she reached across our old wooden kitchen table and softly squeezed my hand. Her palm felt warm and comforting, but inside, my heart felt like a solid block of ice. All I could think about at that exact moment was one very sad and heavy thought. You're already carrying a little baby in your belly, and if I am right about everything that has been happening lately, that little child does not belong to me. Even though my heart was breaking into a million pieces, I forced myself to smile back at her. I did this because I had already started a very careful and quiet plan to find out the deep truth. My name is Ethan Brooks. Up until about a year ago, I really and truly believed that I had the perfect life and the most wonderful marriage a man could ever ask for. We lived in a very quiet, friendly neighborhood with big trees just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. My daily life was spent working as a financial analyst. That is just a big way of saying I spent a lot of time looking at how money moves, studying numbers, and solving difficult puzzles for people. My wife, Lauren, was a high-level marketing executive. She was a leader who was very good at her job. She was someone who truly enjoyed the finer things in life, like expensive clothes from famous designers, go to fancy parties where they taste different wines, and traveling on big business trips to busy cities. We had been married for 8 long years. For most of those 8 years, we were very happy together. We were a real team. But then, about 6 months ago, everything started to feel very different between us. It did not happen all at once like a big storm. It started with small excuses that grew over time. She would say things like, "I am just so tired today," or "I have a very early meeting tomorrow morning," or "My stomach is hurting and I need to rest." For 6 months in a row, Lauren turned away from me. She stopped wanting to be close or show any affection. At first, I tried to be a kind and patient husband. I tried to understand her. I told myself that stress at work happens to everyone, and that sometimes life simply gets too busy for a person to handle. But as the weeks turned into long months, she stopped doing the little things that showed me she loved me. She stopped giving me a kiss when I came home from work. She stopped giving me hugs. Eventually, we even stopped sleeping in the same bed together. She always told me she just needed to get better sleep and that I move around too much at night. However, I noticed something very strange. Even though she said she was so tired at home, she always looked glowing and happy whenever she walked to the front door after a long day at the office. That was the very first clue that something was very wrong in our house. One Friday evening, Lauren forgot her smartwatch on the bathroom counter while she went to take a long shower. While she was in there, the watch started buzzing and lighting up with a notification. Usually, I am the kind of person who respects someone's privacy, and I never look at things that aren't mine. But that night, a strong feeling in my gut told me to look. I saw a message that simply said, "I miss you already. Last night was truly incredible." There was no name attached to the message, only a small red heart. My stomach felt like it dropped all the way to the floor. When she finally walked out of the bathroom wrapped in a soft towel, I acted like I had not seen a single thing. But inside, I felt like a part of my soul had died. Even so, I knew I could not just be angry and scream. I needed to see the proof for myself so I could know for sure. Over the next few weeks, I became the most helpful and kind husband she could ever imagine. I did not want her to suspect a single thing about what I was thinking. I smiled a lot. I cooked her favorite dinners, and I asked her all about her day at work with a friendly face. But while I was acting happy on the outside, I was quietly keeping a record of everything on the inside. I saved credit card papers, hotel bills, and receipts from late-night car rides. I tracked every single bit of money that was spent without a good reason. I even saw that she was taking out extra cash every single Thursday afternoon. Then I found another big surprise that made my heart race. She had bought some special vitamins for women who were going to have babies. She hid the bottle deep inside her gym bag, thinking I would never look in such a messy place. I didn't take the bottle. I just took pictures of it with my phone. I still didn't say anything to her. I knew that pointing fingers without having all the facts only leads to more lies. I wanted the whole truth, and hard facts are the only way to find it. One sunny Sunday morning, Lauren was in the kitchen making a big stack of pancakes. She was smiling and acting just like the sweet, kind woman I had married years ago. She looked into my eyes with a soft look and said, "Ethan, I've been thinking a lot. I really want us to have a baby together." In that moment, it felt like time stopped moving. She had refused to even touch my hand for 6 long months, and now she was asking for a child. Part of me wanted to laugh because it was so unbelievable and strange. Instead, I just leaned over and kissed her forehead gently. I told her I would love that more than anything. She gave me a very tight hug, but she didn't notice that I wasn't really hugging her back with my heart. That same week, I decided to ask for help from a professional who finds people and learns their secrets. Just 3 days later, I had the whole story in my hands. Lauren wasn't working late at her office at all. She was spending her time with her boss, a man named Daniel Mercer. He was also a married man and had 2 children of his own, and he lived only 20 minutes away from our house. The man I hired showed me pictures of them holding hands and kissing outside of hotels. He showed me they had taken trips to a cabin in the woods together. There was even a video from a security camera showing them walking into a doctor's office together. Then I read the part of the report that broke my heart completely and made me feel sick. Lauren was about 8 weeks pregnant. When I did the math in my head, I realized it was impossible for the baby to be mine. We had not been close in half a year. I drove home in total silence that day. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just very, very calm. And when someone is that calm, they are thinking very clearly about what to do next. I went to see a very smart lawyer in Nashville who helps people through the hard process of a divorce. She looked at every single picture, every bank paper, and every hotel receipt I had found. When she finished looking at everything, she looked at me and said, "You have been very patient and brave, Ethan." I told her I just wanted to know the truth. She told me the best thing to do was to wait a little longer. She said we shouldn't act out of anger, but out of being 100% sure of our case. So I waited. I watched Lauren pretend to be the perfect wife for 2 more weeks. She started buying books about how to care for babies and picking out pretty colors for a nursery room. She even sent me pictures of cribs she liked on her phone. Every single lie she told hurt me, but every lie also made my legal case much stronger for the future. Finally, she sat me down and told me she was pregnant. She had real tears in her eyes as she said, "We are going to be parents." I just stood there and hugged her while she cried on my shoulder. She said she had never been happier in her whole life. I told her I felt the same way, because finally, my own plan was ready to happen. The next Saturday, Lauren planned a big dinner for our families. Both of our parents were there, and her sister came too. I had also invited Daniel's wife, telling her it was a special surprise party. Lauren and Daniel had no idea why she was there. We all sat around the big dining room table with lots of food. Lauren stood up with a huge smile and said, "I have some wonderful news for everyone." She held up the pictures of the baby from the doctor. Everyone started clapping and cheering. She grabbed my hand and told everyone, "My amazing husband is going to be the best father in the world." I smiled at her, and then I slowly stood up. I said, "I actually have a surprise of my own to share." The room went very quiet. I turned on the big television and connected my computer to it. One by one, the pictures appeared on the screen for everyone to see. There was Lauren kissing Daniel. There was the video of them at the hotel. I showed the bank records and the receipts for the cabins in the woods. Finally, I showed the report from the investigator. No one said a single word. Daniel's wife looked at the screen and then looked right at her husband. She asked him, "You told me she was just a co-worker?" He couldn't even look at her. Lauren's face turned white like a ghost. She whispered, "Ethan, please stop." I didn't yell or scream. I just put a large envelope on the table. Inside were the papers to end our marriage forever. I also included a paper saying we would need a DNA test as soon as the baby was born. The room was filled with a heavy and sad silence. Then Lauren finally said, "I'm sorry." The dinner ended in a big mess. Daniel's wife walked out, and Daniel ran after her, begging her to stay. Lauren sat in her chair and cried harder than I had ever seen anyone cry. She asked me, Did you plan all of this to hurt me? I told her quietly, I didn't plan for you to hurt me. I just refused to let your lies be my future. 6 months later, our divorce was finished. The DNA test proved what I already knew. Daniel was the father of the baby. He ended up leaving Lauren shortly after the truth came out. As for me, it took a long time to feel okay again. Some mornings were very hard, and I felt very lonely in my house. But I went to talk to a counselor who helped me, and my friends stayed by my side. My parents reminded me that just because someone else broke their promise, it doesn't mean I am not a good person. A year later, I met a woman named Emily. She wasn't trying to be fancy or perfect. She was just very honest and kind. When she said she would call, she called. When she said she loved me, her actions showed it was true. That is when I finally learned a big lesson about life. Real revenge isn't about being mean or loud or trying to hurt others. It is about not letting a bad experience stop you from having a happy and good life. Lauren took a few years of my life, but she didn't get to take the rest of it. And that is the biggest one I could ever have. Being happy and moving forward is the best way to live a good life.